Welcome class. Today we're going to take another video on citing textual evidence. You've probably done this before, oftentimes maybe without even realizing it, just like we discussed in the Making Inferences video. You ever been in an argument with someone and they say, prove it, and you haven't taken your phone out, and if you're anything like me, you go straight to Google because you hate being wrong, or you go straight to Google because you love proving someone wrong, and you find something that either proves that you're right or proves that they're wrong, and then you feel victorious because who doesn't like being right? That going to Google and finding something is citing your textual evidence. It's finding something directly in the text that proves that you're right. So, on page 2 of your notebook, we're going to take notes on text evidence. Just like before. Box, 2 triangles, and some sideways W's, and you have a banner for your title. So, text evidence. Now, the first thing we're going to look at is what everybody wants to know. Why do we have to do this? So, over here, why? Why is this important? Well, the easy answer is that we like to be right. It proves that we're right. It proves that we're correct. But for your answer here is to show that we're not making anything up. To show we are not making things up. To show that we are not making things up, which become important because, again, that's why people say prove it. That's why people say, I don't believe you. And then you go and you take your little small computer or smartphone out of your pocket, they're the same thing, and Google the right answer to prove that you're not making up what you are saying. Now, you do this through explicit textual evidence. Now, we're going to define in more common terms what each one of those words mean. All right? So we're going to come over here now. We're going to start with the word explicit. Explicit means, to put it in a word you've probably seen more often, direct. Explicit or direct. All right? Textual to put it simply means from the text or reading. All right, so direct from the text or reading, and evidence equals support your answer. So if we cite explicit textual evidence, we're finding something directly from the text or reading to support our answer. This is why citing textual evidence is important, because it proves us right. And again, if you're anything like me, you hate to be wrong. So you're going to do whatever you have to do to prove that you are right. Now, there are 3 steps to citing your textual evidence. And right here in the middle, we're going to go over the 3-step process. And I learned in the last video that you can't really see the green marker. I'm going to work on getting a 4th color. But the 3 steps. Number 1, you have your answer. you come up with your answer. That one's simple enough that I give you a question, you give me an answer that answers that question. Boom, we go from there. Who's the greatest basketball player of all time? Michael Jordan. I answered the question. Okay? Number 2. For all you LeBron guys out there, I did that on purpose. Number 2, specify. Or cite. Specify or cite. And this, actually, I'm gonna do that so it goes along, makes it less complicated. All right, and you cite in 2 ways. There's 2 different ways to cite. We got number 1, which is to paraphrase. And you got number 2, which is to direct quote. All right, paraphrase and to direct quote. A paraphrase is to explain without copying. All right. So when you paraphrase, you're explaining without copying. You're not writing it word for word out of the text. Paragraph 2 explains that Michael Jordan didn't lose in the finals 6 times. It may not come straight out of the text, but I paraphrased, or you paraphrased, what paragraph 2 talked about to support your initial answer, which in my example was Michael Jordan's the best basketball player of all time. Or you can direct quote. And when you direct quote, you include a short portion of the text. You include a short portion. Now, you don't just leave it sitting there by itself. You have to have some sort of sentence starter. So you have things like, the author says, or the text states, and then after that, you give a short little snippet. That does not mean you say the author says and then write the entire paragraph. If you want to use the entire paragraph to prove your point, it's easier to paraphrase. But if there's just a little short portion of that text that proves that you're right, and it's maybe 1 sentence, you'll use the direct quote. The third step is explain. Explain. And this is, how does what you're citing prove you're right? Explain how what you cited proves your answer. This will stop you from giving textual evidence that doesn't make sense. You don't want to cite something that doesn't go with your answer. So that's why this third step is important, because if you can explain the connection between what you cited and what your initial answer was, you have not cited the proper or correct textual evidence for your answer. If you have any questions on citing textual evidence, please make sure you take these notes. We're going to do this all year with every single reading that we do from this point forward, and every single question that I ask you, you're going to have to do this to cite your textual evidence, or I count your answer wrong. If you can't cite your textual evidence, I count your answer wrong, even if you have the right answer. So make sure you're paying attention. If you're still confused or you don't understand, reach out to me. Have a great day.